This podcast is sponsored by Shoprev, your powerful automotive marketing system.
Hey guys, welcome to Creative Doers Podcast, episode 6. Today we have Raps by Dre here. We're excited to have him on our show today.
It's going to be a good one, man.
It's going to be a good one, yeah.
So for the record, guys, this is our first podcast that we're actually interviewing a rap shop, man. So I'm really excited to get down to the nitty gritty today too, ask you questions about the shop. We're going to talk about you yourself as a shop owner, talk about some of the suggestions you may have for other, rap shop companies too, and just give people a tip and add some value. So I've had the pleasure of knowing you for,
we just met not too long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago, man. And obviously, since I met you, I can just tell there's a spark in this shop. You're one of the top people I feel like I really wanted
Appreciate that.
Really wanted to interview, man, because I feel like you have something really great going on here. So, Dre, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
So, my name's Dre, guys. Obviously, we met not too long ago. It was a couple months. Nice meeting both of you guys and having you guys on the podcast with me. I am the owner of Raps by Dre. We specialize, obviously, in doing vehicle wraps and PPF, paint protection film. As you all know, that's a short term of PPF, paint correction, a lot more other services you guys or everyone knows about, window tinting.
One-stop shop pretty much, huh?
One-stop shop, yeah. Well, we're eventually going to expand and make it into more other services.
Nice.
But as of right now, we're just, a local paint protection film, vinyl, ceramic coating and paint protection.
Nice. I know you mentioned other services. I'm just curious, what kind of services?
Well, we're going to be offering other services like dynos. We're going to be doing dyno. Are you guys sure? Do you guys know what dyno tuning is, or?
For race cars, pretty much. Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice, bro.
Well, we now have a dyno, but we're going to be expanding it and making it like kind of a second business. So it's not going to be, under Raps by Dre, but.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna
have separate, but same building.
Yeah, subsidiary business here, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. That sounds exciting, man. I mean, you have the space now for it too. So
we've been growing pretty quick. So thank God we've been busy and study. Nice. I have an employee for a little bit of everything. So I got my PPF installer, my vinyl wrap installer, my window tint installer. So now I feel like we're doing pretty good to where we can expand more services and offer more.
Nice.
Right. That's awesome. That's great to hear.
To be that one-stop shop.
Right.
Nice.
Well, that's cool, man. I think that goes back to my next question too, where it's like your role, because I know obviously as an owner, you probably wear multiple hats, right? You're like jumping from operations and dealing with the finances. And so walk us through kind of the responsibilities and roles you have at the shop itself.
So one of the biggest things I have to be doing is, making sure, picking up the phone, emailing customers, giving out quotes, it's a little bit of everything at once. It's pretty hard to do everything at once, but I have to do it. I am the owner, jumping around, making sure my guys are doing what they're supposed to, making sure the cars are looking good before the customer picks them up.
Quality control, man, that's important.
Quality control is the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's huge.
I've got a chance to obviously get to know your story a little bit too, and I would love, for that to kind of be
how it
expressed.
started.
Yeah, how it started. I'd love to hear kind of like how and why did you get started in the automotive industry in general?
Ever since I was, small, obviously as a kid, my dad worked on cars. He's been a mechanic his whole life. That is, he is now retired, and I would stay next to him, while he was working on cars, and I don't know, I got attached to it as well. I used to be a mechanic, by the way, for about 10 years.
That's awesome. What kind of cars, what kind of mechanic, what were you working on?
A little bit of everything.
Nice, okay.
A little bit of everything.
Domestic, imports?
Import, domestic.
Oh, wow.
I mainly worked for a lot of mom and pop shops.
Okay.
And then slowly from there grew into bigger shops like dealerships and stuff.
So you got to see both sides.
Yeah,
of the spectrum.
It's, I used to manage some shops too, and it was tough because it was I'm like a manager of a shop, I got to run it, and that's kind of a lot would help me out in my background that I have, is managing, working on cars themselves, and now opening my business. That I think that helped me out a lot.
Definitely. I'm curious. I mean, you said as a little kid you started working on cars, but you still look young, man. How old were you when you started, man?
I started since I was 18. Wow. I got into my first shop, worked as a mechanic, and slowly worked my way as managing it. Okay. Became a manager. Then after that, we obviously all want a higher pay. Right. So I started looking around for other shops, and finally got into some shops that were paying a little bit more. But yeah, it's pretty much how everything went.
Nice. What made you, like, at what point in your career in the automotive industry that you decided you wanted to start your own company?
Well, as you get older, you have different goals and, different mindsets as when you're young. When you're young, you don't really care about anything or, life in general. You're just trying to have fun.
You're just living life, man.
Yeah. And, as I got into the last shop I was in, I was like a manager for a fleet. Nice. I decided, like, do I really want this for a long term or, do I want it for short term? Right. And I decided, slowly start doing side jobs, and kind of testing the waters out, see what it would be like if, I started my own business.
If you would be able to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy because it all started from my mom's, house where I was kind of doing side jobs and things for friends, and then moved to my brother's house where I live with him now. Okay. And I was getting very busy at a point that I was like, man, I need a shop, So we got our first shop in Fairfield. It was a tiny shop, you could only fit one car in it. Yeah. But we grew out of that shop pretty quick.
And you said you started with vinyl wraps, right?
Yeah, so back to when I was at my mom's, it was first more side jobs of, being a mechanic and kind of wrenching. Got it. And then slowly from there, I was doing vinyl wraps, and I was like, man, this is a lot easier than actually wrenching, Right. So I decided I was
less extensive, like you mentioned earlier before. We jumped on this podcast. It wear and tear on your hands, your body,
the knuckles,
there was a lot of wear and tear. So I decided to just kind of get more into the vinyl wrap scene. For sure. And it actually worked out great. I mean, we now went from vinyl wrapping to offering other services. That's kind of where we're all started.
That's awesome, man.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
And so your first location, right? You kind of grew out of there, and I know obviously now you have a couple locations now, right? That you've expanded into. But I think for the shop owners that are out there that are looking to maybe get into the shop or the game, right? Actually owning a shop, or even maybe trying to expand. Like, when did you know it was time to start
to expand to a bigger
bro?
shop?
Yeah, obviously maybe I started getting more customers, right? Yeah. But when did you really say, hey man, I gotta do something about this,
Well, we got really busy it was in 2019 is when we blew up. We were getting cars getting booked. We're getting booked out a month, and then slowly it was getting to that point where we have no space. We need more space so we actually could fit more tools, more materials. Basically wanted to just have a shop where we can fit more cars into work.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I feel like in 2019 too, the rap scene itself,
it blew up.
It blew up big. What do you think caused that to happen? What was it? Was it a movie? You know what I mean?
No, I think it was more. You would see more cars getting wrapped. People see a wrap and they're like, oh, what is that? Is that a paint job? Right. So most people were just starting to see all that and wanted a wrap. And you get more inquiries of people wanting to wrap. Right. So I think it blew up mainly because too many cars and you could see it. Right.
What would you say is the advantages of wrapping your car versus painting it now? Right. So I feel like
it's cheaper. Okay. It's more affordable than a paint job. Paint jobs nowadays are $10,000. Right. Versus not even half the cost of that. To wrap it. You're looking at a couple grand only to just wrap it.
Man.
Not just that.
It changed the game, man.
Yeah, it did, and it does change. It does also, it benefits your paint as well. You can have a wrap and look good and still protect the paint.
So, what is paint protection film and why is it important for car owners?
Paint protection film is a film we put on the vehicle's paint. It's ideally to protect it from rock chips, scratches, bird droppings, pretty much anything in general that's out there when you're driving. It could withhold a lot of impact. So it is I highly recommend it for anybody that's getting a new vehicle. It's definitely worth it.
A lot of Tesla owners are getting them right now, right? Because obviously the paint, is...
Well, the paint's very soft nowadays. Yeah. It's not like back in the days where, the vehicle... Well, at least in my opinion, I think back then, the paint was a lot more better on vehicles when they were painted in the past. Now it's just soft.
Yeah.
And more brittle. I think so.
Yeah, I feel like with all the automation and the having these robots paint the vehicles now, and they're starting to do less stages over the paint. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest contributors to why these paints are very.
I'm not even sure, but I think I've heard somebody mention it to me that Tesla's not putting primer on their vehicle, which which is, I think, maybe to reduce the weight. I'm not sure, but I heard something like that, and it was from somebody that actually owns a body shop. But
damn,
I could be wrong. Maybe,
like you said, bro, we might need to tweet Elon Musk.
Yeah, might have to tweet him.
Yeah,
send a tweet to Elon Musk, bro. Man, well, on the subject of, I think I want to go back to the growth of the business and how you kind of achieve where you're at now. I think that's important for us to highlight. Like, what was it like building that community up for you, that clientele? For PPF, for vinyl wraps, for everything. Just the growth of the shop. How was that like for you, and what was that process like? How did it kind of come about to where you have, the customers you have now?
Well, that's a pretty tough question. I don't know. It just all naturally came, I guess. Word of mouth is one of the first things, that's how you get most of your clients from. I think one of the ways I got most of my clients was mainly like Google search, is pretty good where it helped me out, reach more customers, also Yelp, but mainly it was Google.
Nice. Quality too, right? The quality of the work, I feel like, as well.
Well, yeah. I don't want to say we have we're the greatest in the game, but definitely. I mean, thanks to my employees, who've put their I would say their touches to it, made a big impact for us getting more, customers, and targeting more people because their work is out there,
For sure.
Right. I think also too, as an owner, right, you can always juggle between personal life and also business too. So how has that kind of been a contributor with the growth of business? Like,
that's a good question. I mean, it impacted me in certain ways. Like, it impacted my routines that my routine that I have, like going to the gym, spending more time with my family, and it kind of sucks because there's no, I feel like there's no explanation when it comes to telling your family, like, hey, we're very busy at work, I can't spend time with you. It impacts you in many ways.
For sure.
Not just in like my own personal life, I think too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Gotcha, man. Well, I think that's that's definitely something. I mean, sacrifices, is something that we will always have to that'll be there, But I'm really glad to know that the shop is out where it's at now, and obviously in the year that we're at, since you started, sounds like this year is kind of more so you kind of got the grasp of things to be able to try to be it. Then spread yourself out a little bit more, amongst your personal life for the most part. Obviously there's gonna be things that come up, everywhere. We're like firefighters, but.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just nice to know that, like you mentioned, like you have something established, and it feels like this is the year that you kind of had that establishment.
Yeah, this is probably I'm almost forgetting it's my 6th year now in business.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's
Congrats.
phenomenal.
And I'm glad. Thanks to my employees too. I couldn't done it without them.
Absolutely, man. Shout out to the Rats by Dre team.
Yeah, shout out to the team.
How was the shift in because you mentioned that you started off with vinyl wraps, right?
Yeah.
So how was the shift with the rise of PPF and the demand of PPF in the industry? How did that change your focus in certain services that you were offering?
Let's just start with PPF. PPF in general, everybody knows it as paint protection. It's known as paint protection film, but people know it as PPF, clear bra, vinyl wrap. So a lot of people out there still don't know that, paint protection film is totally different than actual vinyl. They're both a wrap. I mean, it's considered a wrap, but it gets confused.
For sure. I could definitely see that because, people would essentially ask for, a wrap, which would be essentially a potential changing the color of the car, whereas PPF could,
It's mainly to protect the paint.
Exactly. The existing paint that's already there. And so I could definitely see where the confusion can lie between both products or services.
Not just that, it even people get PPF now confused with ceramic coating, and ceramic coating is totally different than PPF.
Right. And I think for me, I think the biggest thing is I don't think there's enough knowledge out there to the end consumers as to what is the differentiator between a lot of these services.
There is and there isn't. Nowadays everybody could YouTube it. A lot of my customers lately have been coming pretty educated. They're nice. Always seen on YouTube, that paint protection is good. Some even say they think that the brand that they seen on YouTube is a lot better than another brand, So it's the knowledge is out there, but some people don't really want to bother probably watching YouTube and looking it up.
Right.
Some will rather ask and want to get educated by the person that's actually going to install it.
Definitely.
With a ton of competition rising in the wrap industry, right? How do you guys here at Wraps by Dre stay ahead of the curve?
Here at our shop, I mean, we mind our own business. Not really care about what other shops are doing. We come up with our own game plans to that feel that is going to benefit us more, rather than secret shopping, because I'm sure a lot of there's a lot of shops out there that do secret shopping where they want to see what their competition is up against and what are they offering. One of the biggest things is shop owners gossiping about, that shop is doing it cheaper than this shop, I think we should be charging cheaper. So it's a small world and a small community where all shop owners kind of talk about it, and I personally try to stay away from that type of energy, and mind my own business, provide for my employees, make sure that they got what they need, advertise, do whatever it takes, to keep us going.
Most definitely. And I think you touched a little bit on pricing, what your competitors are doing, but I really think it comes back to you pay for what you get, at that point too.
Yes, we've heard that term a lot, and you do get what you pay for at the end of the day.
Right.
You go cheap route, you're gonna get something that you're not gonna be happy with.
Right.
But we stand behind our work. We make sure our work before it leaves, it goes good to keep them customers happy and bring in more vehicles back.
So how do you determine what materials are best when using PPF or coating and things like that? I know you probably have used many products previously before, but how did you come about picking out your favorite one?
That's a good question, and it's pretty hard to answer, but I'll answer it as best I can. I think all brands got the same thing in common, obviously to protect, but we all, as we use more brands or different brands, we all get comfortable with the brand that we mainly like. Like us, we use S-Tech. My employees, I like to make sure my employees are going to be comfortable and okay with using the brand that I purchase. Like I said, ours is S-Tech, and we think it's our go-to brand. But at the end of the day, is it the greatest? I don't think so. I think there might be other brands out there that might be better. I have reached out to other companies to try to get my hands on their product, and some companies are very iffy about using their product. They pretty much want you to not use S-Tech, not use Legend, not use other brands. So to answer that question, it just depends. I think they all just got the same thing in common, but
they all serve their purpose.
To each their own kind of deal, And also who you're promoting, who you have behind your back as a brand.
The main thing is who's going to back up the warranty, because at the end of the day, we're spending these thousands of dollars on material. Who's actually going to be there, for a warranty claim,
That's a great point. Yeah.
To replace it.
Right.
But also another thing is shipping, who can get it to you quicker, who keeps a higher stock of material. So it's a lot of variables, but I think overall our brand is S-Tech.
Nice, man.
Awesome.
Gotcha. How was the overall industry, the wrap industry, just changed, or detailing industry changed from when it started to now when you got in the game? What do you think is the biggest thing that's changed over time? Do you think it's more competition? Obviously, what is it exactly that you feel is the biggest thing that's different? There's
more people out there opening a shop, or more people doing it at home. I think the biggest thing that's kind of hurting it is people opening shops at home, or not a shop, but doing things at home and offering it for a cheaper price.
Yeah, I think that comes back down to you pay for what you get,
Yeah.
I feel like the industry has evolved, with products, right? And the type of materials that what was essentially offered when it first came out to how it is now. I mean, if you want to touch on, on the product standpoint.
Materials definitely improved by now. Back then they had paint protection film that didn't come with, self-healing technology or, didn't have hydrophobic, the hydrophobic capabilities.
Nice.
So they improved the film by a lot in general,
That's good. No, that's great insight.
Do you think that's like the biggest technological innovation that's happened is basically the self-healing properties of those products? Is that kind of like the biggest thing, or is there other things too?
One of the things I ask my customers, or customers have asked me, is it gonna yellow? Is it gonna crack? Is it gonna peel? There's PPF that you can look back on some vehicles, from a couple years back, and you can see what customers are mainly talking about, and that's one of their fears. How good is the material that we're gonna be using?
I have, I think one time I was shopping for a Mercedes, and it was a private owner. In photos it looked great and they said it had PPF on it, but when I went in person it was on a cream color car, so they had some type of PPF on there, but it was yellowed, and I was kind of thrown off guard. But I to me personally, I felt like it was more or less of the actual material that maybe wasn't as advanced as it is today.
That's that's the thing. Like, nowadays, it's like every year they're improving it, and like I said, there's brands coming out with a more thicker film now, So it was, I know from one of the newest films that Estic has that offers, it's a 10 mil thickness, which is a lot more thicker than what they had a couple years back. That's just like another more durability film now that they offer.
Right. Do you feel like the technology is going to continue to evolve over time?
I mean, I hope so.
Right.
I hope it does improve, and I think it will. I think we're gonna come a long ways that we have already, and a couple years back. I think we're definitely gonna improve the film. Well, not we, but companies are.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
We obviously want the best for our customers.
Yeah, I think it's going to keep evolving. I think as more companies pop up too, everybody's going to try to figure out ways to become more innovative with their product. And so
now they even have color change, and PPF.
Oh, wow.
And that's now like something that's going to probably start, blowing up, and it's crazy because PPF was only offered in clear. Then they came up with a matte, the matte style.
Yeah.
And then the gloss black. So now they're coming out with different actual colors that, we can now offer to our customers. I still would want to try it out. I haven't had a customer ask or inquire about it, but I would take on it and, see how it goes.
Man, I feel like the wrap side of the business is going to evolve into a PPF wrap.
Color change,
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because I think you mentioned to me too, I think a lot of there's been more demand, right, for paint protection film services within your business versus the wraps,
Yeah.
Before it was kind of different. So I think that's why too. I think with electric vehicles too coming up, I think like with more demand of PPF, you're gonna start to see a lot.
Yes, we definitely seen that throughout the past 2 years. Like it was vinyl wrap. It was popping. Everybody wanted a vinyl wrap. Now we get less of that now, more paint protection than vinyl itself, color change in general, so it just really depends on the customer, whether they want to change the vehicle, the appearance of the vehicle, it's pretty much up to them. But ideally, we're mostly dealing with customers that want paint protection film at this point.
Gotcha. You mentioned something earlier about like getting products to you quicker, right? Depending on what companies you use to get film over to you faster to your shop. So how do you what are some best practices for managing the inventory of your wraps?
One thing I learned was keep material in stock. If you don't have it in stock, you're gonna fall back and having to order material at the last minute.
Yeah. And
guess what? You got deadlines on a vehicle that has to leave. So that's one of the biggest things that I had to face, and because we all as owners, we're not big multi-million-dollar companies. So we want to make sure that, you know, we have a deposit for that vehicle we're going to do, you know. But I got that over me, and I try to keep material in stock at all times.
Gotcha. I know that's a big one too, because turnaround, right? I think at some point you know, like, how much you're going to be turning around at a certain point, and so,
well,
you know,
the busier you get, the more demand you needed, you know.
Right.
Yeah. How has I'm curious, how has the supply chain affect, you know, receiving the material, and have you seen, like, you know, the cost of the material go up over the last year or two due to possibly freight, it coming overseas? I mean, if you want to speak on, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it mainly happened when the pandemic happened. That's when, like, every shop owner was freaking out because, you know, it was a lot of shortage on everything, not just PPF itself. It was also vinyl, you know. But we got through it. I mean, I think everything was just coming down to, you know, your vendor having it in stock or not too, because obviously they will have a shortage on materials that they need to make the material.
Right.
Well, I mean, the product, you know.
Right. No, definitely. And gaining access to that, because wherever the manufacturers are,
It could have been overseas.
Yeah. And with freight costs, you know, doubling, you know, I mean, I can only imagine the cost of.
Yeah, it definitely affected us in some way. Not too much, I think, because we weren't, you know, a lot of there was to a point where we had some of it in stock already, you know.
So you like to stay stocked up.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned, and I learned that a lot of other business owners do the same. You know, there is times that I forget to, you know, keep track of inventory, and I'm at the last minute ordering material, and guess what? You're paying that extra express shipping.
Right.
Not just that, but express shipping wasn't also even helping, you know. Because of the, you know, shortage of employees that they had too. That was one of the things from every company I was getting is low staff, you know.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, we've talked with repair shops too, body shop. That's a big one right now.
Yeah.
Staffing issues, trying to find talent.
A lot of these big companies.
Yeah, exactly. Especially during after the pandemic, you know. I mean, it's been different, but I think that's a big struggle across the full industry, like the whole automotive industry itself is finding talent. So, what do you feel like the future of the industry itself is going to look like, you know, within the next 10 years? I know that's hard to say, or where do you feel that might go?
That's a good question.
But
you know?
Where do you feel like you think is going to be the biggest, like, things to look for, you know?
You know, newer vehicles coming out, you know, they're getting more complicated to do. You know, we have to learn how to disassemble them, how to install, you know, everything comes to the new vehicle coming out, you know. What shape is it gonna be? Like, one of the difficulties is that every shop owner usually has is like bumpers that have a lot of, you know, crevices or like, you know, curves and edges on them that are difficult to do. Or sometimes, you know, some shop owners use they use a plotter to, you know, cut and print out what the bumper or door or whatever they're gonna PPF in general is gonna get printed out. So it's pretty hard to even get patterns for that, you know, because the vehicles are new.
Right.
So, you know, it's pretty hard to predict, you know.
So what are some challenges you face as a shop owner?
There's a couple, like one is employees quitting, or, you know, well, one of the things, let's just first start off with employees. Like, we don't know when they're gonna quit, so you go through a lot of hiring process, or even to find people that are gonna commit to staying and actually, you know, being an actual employee that's gonna be long term. I think one of the things I went through was getting a lot of new guys that were new to the industry and, you know, training them from ground up, providing them the tools they need, you know, and paying them. And then guess what? 6 months down the road, you could start seeing the slack of work that they're doing. You know, the work ethic is not there anymore. So I think I'm ideally struggled more with employees, new employees, you know, and not committing to what they were going to say.
I mean, with talking about employees, are you having trouble trying to hire employees in the workforce for what you do? Because I know this industry is very niche, right? And
yes, this is like, you have to be very, OCD when it comes to this work. You have to be take pride on what you're gonna do. We're talking about expensive vehicles we get all the time, and imagine hiring somebody new and causing more damage to the vehicle than what it originally came for. How do you explain it to your customer?
Right. So I think you have to be very detailed oriented and really vet out who you're hiring and the onboarding process. If training is very very important, I would say, right, and very hands on.
Yeah, training is comes a long ways. I mean, this is not something you're gonna learn overnight. This takes time. I know, like, one of my employees I have right now has been with me since day one. And to learn most of the wrap process, it didn't take him overnight. It took him at least easy 2 years to finally get his hands on himself and kind of start doing things on his own. Now I can easily walk away and have him do what he's good at now.
Right, 2 years, man. That's a lot of experience on a lot of cars.
And it also depends on how you're gonna train him, And also, one of the other things is most new employees you get, they don't want to work for free. Yeah. They want to, even though they don't have the knowledge on what they're doing or what they're going to get into, they want to get paid and learn, and that's one of the things I provide. And, if anybody wants to come work here, I do like to pay and train.
How do you find new employees? Like, what is your kind of way of finding new talent?
A lot of it is word of mouth, or one of my employees is, like I said, has been with me since day one. He's a family friend. So, I got lucky with him because he's my go-to guy when I'm not around,
So tell me, man, what advice would you give wrap shops that are looking to be successful with the wrap game?
One of the things is, if you have a job, don't quit your job right away and go open up a business. One of the things I did is I kept my full-time job and I, worked my way up to where I'm at now. Just before quitting, always think about that, because you don't know what's going to happen. Things could change overnight, You don't know how busy you're going to be, and guess what? You're back to getting a normal 80-hour, job.
Right.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And I think on that point too, when you said don't quit, I think, your job till you've built yourself up to the point where you can actually transition out. I think having, while you're busting you're behind trying to get to that point, I think having a savings, to fall back on in case something happens with the, with going into this new adventure, is something that you can kind of fall back on, Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's true. You always want to make sure you're going to have, be financially stable, before taking on, becoming a business owner,
Right.
Like, you can't just expect, to start making money off the first day. You got to also remember there's going to be expenses you're going to have to make, to work your way up,
For sure.
Right.
For the people that are watching, what would you say, just throw a number out there. What do you think is a good savings to kind of fall back on, or to have before quitting and
that's a good
taking that big
question.
step?
I mean, that's even...
It differs, right? I mean, depending on what your expenses are as a person.
Well, you got to be smart with your money up first.
Yeah.
You got to know where to invest your money in first. You can't just start buying. Like, one of the things I noticed from kind of like looking at other businesses and kind of, picking their brains a little bit, they go off getting trained and, spend all this money on training and stuff. Me, for example, I didn't go through any major training, or any big companies to train me on what I do. I think everybody, and I tell everybody, learn it. You can learn it on your own. It doesn't have to be paying all this money to get trained.
Right.
Self-educate.
Absolutely.
I think always hands-on too. I'm sure you've worked with other individuals that have taught you to get to where you're at.
Yeah, we all kind of help each other out in this community. It's small, everybody kind of knows each other. Me, for example, I invested a lot of my money in materials until I finally got, learned how to do it the correct way.
So what is some advice for shops that are established, right? Maybe they're not starting out, but maybe already established. What is some advice you'd give them on how to be like successful, or how to be, how to just become successful, or be successful as a shop owner?
One of the things is keeping your employees happy, making sure, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be, helping you get these cars out and pumping them out, and obviously, want to make sure that they're happy with their pay. You're providing them with the tools they need, because nobody wants to come to a shop, with no tools, or, also another thing is positive attitude. You always want to bring good energy coming into a shop. I'm sure no employee wants to come in and, getting yelled at. One of the other things is, taking responsibility even for your employees' mistakes. I'm not saying to let it happen all the time, but, making sure that, hey, if they break something, don't go charging them for it or take it out their pay.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some form of responsibility you have to have, amongst everything else. And I think it all goes back to you at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, you know what I mean? It's owning up to it and then learning from it and what you can do better next time.
That's part of, being a business owner. There's so many challenges that you can have, and, like I said, and advice I can give out. But, from me, I could really say there's, a few things I could give out information on that can help out others.
Absolutely, man. Well, besides the serious questions, man, I want to ask you one more. What do you like to do for fun, man? Besides, just
shoot. I like to spend time with my dog.
What kind of dog you got?
A Doberman.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
I like to spend time with my dog. Go to the gym. I mean, lately I've been slacking. But
same here.
Yeah, no, it's especially when you got your business to run.
For sure. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I like to go out. We go bike riding and stuff.
Nice,
a little bit. I like to stay out there and stay active, pretty much.
There you go. You been at China Camp?
No.
That's one of the few places that I've actually thrown up at going up. So you should try that one out. Me and my couple cousins of mine, we went up, took the bikes up there, and dude, I got up like quarter of the way. I was out. I made it up though, but it was a journey. It was all incline, dude.
Biking is something else, man.
Yeah, it was all inclines, because once you start going up, you can't turn around. You're only going up. It's only one way up.
You have to be conditioned for that stuff, man.
Yeah,
definitely.
It takes time.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely not conditioned. All good, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I think this is a very constructive podcast, man. I think, like I said, it was very exciting for me because it was our first rap owner interview. Yeah, man, I want to just give a big shout out to you guys, Raps by Dre. You guys putting down good quality work, bro, out here. And so, definitely, I appreciate you being on the podcast, man. I appreciate your time.
And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, bro, it's a good one for sure. Well, you guys tune into the next episode, episode 7 coming out. But other than that, we're out.
We'll see you soon.
Cool.